Hey everybody, I'm Ashley and I am so excited to kick off this new series with you. It's called One Step, and I think it has the potential to change the way we see ourselves, others, and the role that we play in this world. Now before we get into it, I want to ask you a question. Do you know someone who's run a marathon, like on purpose? Now in case you don't know, a marathon is a race that is 26.2 miles long. The term marathon comes from an actual ancient battle in 490 BC at a real place called Marathon, where a Greek soldier named Philippides is said to have run over 150 miles in 2 days and actually died of exhaustion after running the last 27 miles. Sorry. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, just thinking about running a full 26.2 miles exhausts me too. I mean, honestly, walking 26.2 miles doesn't sound that great at all. If you do know someone who has done it, then you probably know how much work they had to put into it before actually getting there. You can't just show up on race day with no training, no plan, and no endurance to run the race. Well, I guess you can, but you probably shouldn't. Okay, to successfully run a race like that, you have to prepare, you have to train, you have to stay strong, and you have to be brave enough to keep going, because that's how marathons are run, by putting one foot in front of the other over and over and over, one step at a time. And no, we are not training for a marathon together, but we are gonna talk about another part of our lives that takes a lot of strength, a lot of endurance, and a lot of courage. It's something that requires us to take one step at a time to move toward a better tomorrow. And that is the work to see justice in this world. Now, before we go any further, let's make sure that we're all on the same page about justice. Justice means something is right, fair, or equal. When we talk about justice, we're talking about moving toward a world where things are better for everyone. We're talking about working against injustice, which is when things are unfair, unequal, or not right in the world. Now, for some of us, the conversation about justice and injustice is not new. Injustice is something that some of us have experienced, whether it's related to race or disability, neurodiversity, based on what you have or don't have, or maybe something else altogether. And injustice and the need for justice is something that's a big part of the world all around us. And maybe you have experienced injustice for yourself. And I hate that you have had to go through that. I know that it's not easy. And I hope that this conversation will help us all work alongside each other to do our part to take one step toward a better tomorrow. Now, maybe you're watching this with a different way of seeing things. Of course, you recognize that this world can be unfair or wrong or difficult. And when you see or even experience things like that, you probably feel awful, right? Now, that sinking feeling in your stomach, that anger that makes you tighten your fists, the frustration that leaves you feeling defeated, those are all signs that something you've seen or experienced isn't right. Let me tell you what I mean. So in 2017, the Houston Astros won the World Series. Check them out. That's a pretty big deal, right? Well, a few years later, that excitement died down. That's when the league figured out that the team had been cheating the entire season leading up to the win. With cameras set up in their center field, the team would watch what signals the opposing team's catchers sent to the pitcher. And they were all watching to figure out what pitches were about to be thrown. When they saw the signs, the players in the dugout would bang in code on a trash can to tell the other player at bat what was coming his way. So a fastball, 1 hit. A changeup, 2 hits. A curveball, 3 hits. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was any other player on any other team in the league that year, watching the Astros win the World Series by cheating would have felt like a pretty big injustice. Now, you may not know what it feels like to lose the World Series because the other team cheated, but you probably do know what it feels like to lose the highest grade in your math class to the kid who's always cheating on their test. Or to have to give up your after-school sports or activities because maybe your family can't afford them now that your parent lost their job. Or to see the unhoused population in your community growing. Or to see war breaking out in different parts of the world, or to be treated differently because of something like race or ability or the way you look. Those feelings that you experience in response to this stuff, those are all the signals that you recognize injustice happening to you or around you. They're all the signals calling somebody, anybody, to take one step towards justice. Well, what if I told you that that somebody could be you. That right now, as a middle schooler, you have the potential to do something about the hurts and the wrongs and the unfair things that you see or experience in the world around you. That you could take the first step toward a better tomorrow today. And here's the good news. We aren't the first people to need a little help opening our eyes to the need for justice in the world. And I think that's part of the reason Jesus made a habit of pointing things out that people hadn't seen or noticed before. So much of his ministry on earth was about helping people see the world through his eyes. And today we're gonna look at a time he did just that. Now, a guy named Matthew actually experienced life with Jesus. And Matthew knew Jesus and wrote down a lot of what he saw him do and say. So when we read his account of Jesus' life, it's from somebody who experienced it firsthand. Now, in this particular encounter, Jesus was trying to help those who were listening to understand that part of following him means seeing and caring about the injustices in the world. And to do that, Jesus compared righteous people to unrighteous people. Now, when we talk about righteous people, we're talking about people who do good and want to help others. But unrighteous people, they do the opposite. Now, with that in mind, look at what Jesus said. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" Okay, so maybe you're thinking what the people who were listening back then thought. What in the world was Jesus talking about here? Now listen to how Jesus answered. The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." Okay, did you catch that? Jesus was saying that righteous people see and look for ways to fight for justice around them. They care about the least of these, which are people who need the most help or feel the most pain or get the worst treatment. They recognize when someone is hungry, in prison, sick, or left out. They see the injustice in the way those people are treated around them, and they care. Why? Because in caring for those who are being treated as less than or left out, they're showing they care about what God cares about. They're showing that they love the people God loves. Jesus was reminding us that his followers are called to look for people who need the most help, feel the most pain, or get the worst treatment. And whether you're a follower of Jesus or still trying to figure out this whole faith thing, I really think that this is important for all of us because we all want a better tomorrow, right? We all want the wrongs that we see to be made right. We want things to be fair and good and equal. We want justice, and God wants that too. And it starts with just one step, or in our case, one question. Where can you move toward justice? The truth is, there's injustice happening all around us all the time. And I know for many of you, that injustice is even happening to you right now. No matter what our circumstance, we are all in the position to take one step toward justice, both for ourselves and the people around us. And that first step may simply be following Jesus' lead to open our eyes and see the wrongs for what they are, injustice. So, where can you move toward justice? The answer will be different for each of us, and that's okay. I'm gonna give you 3 steps: a small step, a next step, or a big step. Which one might you take today? Now, here's the small step. Okay, maybe today you need to start by taking just one small step in the direction of justice. For you, that might mean opening your eyes to see the injustices around you for the first time or in a new way. Your first move may be to recognize the variety of wrongs in the world, and not just the ones that you've seen up close or already know about, but be curious to learn about other people's experiences. Pay attention to the way that you feel when you see or experience things that are unfair or wrong. Don't turn your head or close your eyes, but instead ask God to give you the eyes to see and the hearts to face the reality that there may be more injustice happening in your world than you even realized. So here's the next step. Now, others of you may be ready to take your next step towards justice by speaking up or stepping in. Take the time this week to consider what injustices you're witnessing or experiencing and come up with a few next steps that you can take to help move toward justice in those areas. If you're seeing injustice, it might be time to lean into Jesus' call to his followers and speak up or step in to help. When you recognize a wrong, what's one thing that you can do right now to help make it right? Do you need to speak up or step in? And if you're the one experiencing injustice, maybe your next step is to tell somebody. Ask for help. If you can, put a voice to what you're experiencing so that it could potentially be stopped. And finally, here's the big step. Now, let me encourage those of you who are ready to take a big step toward justice. Think about the practical things you know you can do to move toward justice. What is that thing that breaks your heart because it's not right, it's not fair, and it's not equal? Who is that person that you know you need to have a conversation with? What is your big step? And what do you need to do to take it? Challenge yourself to do it. Take a big step toward a better tomorrow for the people who need it, maybe even for yourself. And no, I'm not asking you to come up with a solution that will end things like poverty or racism or war forever. But I do believe that you, this incredible community of middle schoolers, could take enough steps together to move toward justice. So I'm encouraging all of us to consider our one step this week by asking this question: where can you move toward justice? One of the best places that you can start talking about how you can move toward justice is in your small group. Your group is a safe space for you to listen, ask questions, and encourage each other to do something great in this world together. And if you're experiencing injustice, working for justice, or just seeing the variety of injustices in a new way, I hope that you'll share more about that with your group.